I wanted to be building wealth while I still own the company,
Yeah.
not waiting for the exit strategy.
Welcome to the show. Ken and Carr with you. I love that opening quote. It captures really the mindset of building wealth through business ownership, and it's awesome. And of course, you'll hear more about it here. Our guest today is Caroline Wilbert. She is founder and owner of the Wilbert Group, which is a PR and social media and content firm here in Atlanta, and it's a firm that our local team has worked with in the past. She is an entrepreneur, and she actually started out as a journalist before starting some content development companies and then ultimately founding Wilbert in 2009. And of course, we'll get into all that. There's a big myth in business ownership and entrepreneurship, and that's that you need this big breakthrough to be a success. I love Caroline's story because she emphasizes over and over how it's small, intentional steps along the way that actually lead to success. And these steps are in tune with your values and long-term vision. You're not knocking home runs, you're knocking singles and doubles consistently. And through that, you'll hear her talk about her values, which are very clear. You'll hear her talk about how she builds trust among her homegrown talent to build her leadership team, and ultimately even how she transfers wealth in the business to the next generation. All those things are intentional. You'll love hearing about that. If you want to learn more about the work our team does here, you can check it out at cannon-car.com and learn more about our 3Rs approach to financial planning for business owners. I love this episode with Caroline. You're going to learn a lot. Sit back and enjoy our conversation. Well, Caroline, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you. You've worked with our team to help tell our stories, and now it's fun to put the spotlight on you for a little bit and just your own entrepreneurial journey and help our clients learn. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So I thought we'd just start by going way back to the beginning. You started out as a journalist. I know you started some content development companies before Wilbert, but did you always think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
Not really. I think I was always interested in entrepreneurship. Even as a reporter, I was a business reporter for about 10 years. I always gravitated towards writing about entrepreneurs. I was always coming up with business ideas, but for myself, but I just don't think I really had the confidence to really view myself that way. It was really my then husband who wanted to start the Wilbert Group. He had also been a journalist and worked in PR, and so I was sort of on board. I was going to help him with that, and that's really how we got our start. And then that was in 2009, and we worked together for a long time. And then when we divorced in 2016, we decided that I would buy him out over 3 years, and it was a big leap. And that's when I really became my thing, and that I was running it day to day.
Yeah. Did you find you were ready for it, or did you think, oh my gosh, we're jumping into the chasm and I hope I figure it out?
I felt like it was my best shot to have the financial security that I wanted, and to make sure that the Wilbert Group continued to be successful. So I was scared, but I was excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was just looking back on it? What was the maybe the most challenging transition to go from co-founder to buying out and being the primary owner at that point? Was there any particular thing you learned when you look back on it?
We made a lot of changes. I think we really started. We changed some of the things about the business itself, which I know is one of the other things that you wanted to talk about, which is we became more focused not only on traditional PR, but also on digital channels and helping our clients tell their own stories. I got more serious about investing in our people
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that we were creating a place where they could grow with us and where they had the resources that they needed. That was important to me. And also investing in our community more. So those were some of the things that I don't know if they were big changes, but they were places that I leaned into more than maybe we had in the past. Probably the biggest challenge was just convincing our clients that I could do this. I think that my then husband had been really the face of the company, and most of my clients are in commercial real estate, so most of them are men. So, sort of calling them and being like, I can do this. Give me a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Let's
because
be
I think you were right. You were your then husband was maybe I can't remember if it was CEO and you were president, so you're both having leadership roles, but you had to become, in a sense, the face of the company and transfer that trust and credibility.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
exactly.
Well, so the media industry is fascinating to me, and PR's role in it, and from the layman's view, there's been so much change over the last 15 years. Anyway, I mean, not only that managerial change you talked about, but just the industry imposing on you. When you look back over the last 15 years, aside from COVID, what were some of the big changes, and how did that force you as a company to respond?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to really always be thinking about where our clients' audiences are. So, and that's just changed dramatically. We do still do a lot of what I would call traditional media relations. Our clients still want to be in the Atlanta Business Chronicle. They still want to be in trades that are relevant for the industries that they're in. They still want to be in the Wall Street Journal. So that remains a really, really important part of our business. There's still a lot of credibility in that. Um, but their audiences are in a lot of other places too, right? So we also need to make sure that we're helping them tell their stories on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on just digital channels in general. And even on the media relations side, I would say we sort of broadened our definition of what earned media is. It is still those outlets that I just mentioned, but it's also podcasts, it's also blogs, it's websites, it's influencers. So I think we've just had to broaden the ways that we tell our client stories.
Yeah. Has it forced you to change structurally, organizationally, how you've organized the team, or has it been pretty easy to adapt to those changes?
No, we have. I mean, when we started, again, it was mostly I had been a reporter, as had Tony. So it was, we knew how newsrooms worked. We had a lot of relationships. So it was like, okay, we can get our clients in the media. And we're still really good at that. It's that sort of consistently generating positive media coverage for our clients. So it's still really important. And then it's sort of like, okay, Twitter was really big back then. So I was like, okay, we can handle Twitter for you for extra $1,000 a month. So we were sort of adding on social at that point. And then in 2016, I sort of made the decision we have to be really good at this. This is important, and we need to be really good at this social media piece. And so we invested in that. We hired against it, and today we have a separate group, our digital team, that focuses on that. So that is a combination of strategists who sort of understand the back end of those channels, and also content creators who really know how to tell compelling stories. So for most of our clients now, they're kind of going down parallel paths, PR and a social program, and we think those two are really complementary.
Yeah. Awesome. So you've been able to, in a way, anticipate and respond accordingly. Was there ever a time where you didn't see a disruption coming, and you had to step back for a moment and think, "Oh, wow, how do I handle that?" and then work through it, or has it been largely what you would expect?
That's a great question. I mean, I think coming out of the newspaper industry and sort of seeing how it didn't respond maybe as quickly as it should have, frankly, to the internet.
Yeah.
Um, and So I've always had the mindset that, we can't just say we want things to stay the same. We've got to realize and we're seeing that right now with AI. Um, we have to embrace it. It's here. It can do a lot of things that our team has traditionally done. So how can we use that? How can it make us smarter and more efficient while still telling human-centered stories? So I think we're still trying to figure that out right now, but I'm definitely excited about how we can be a first mover on that.
Yeah. Well, you're small enough, nimble enough to be able to do those kind of things, which is great. Well, let's pivot a little bit. I know, a lot of the work I do with business owners is defining their values, right, and making sure it's guiding their decisions in the right way. And I know values are so important at Wilbert because I've heard you talk about them. You've got Wilbert Cares, you've got Wilbert Wellness. Tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about how you instill values into the culture of the company and how you use them to make decisions.
Um, well, I think for us, there's sort of three things that we're always focused on. One is we want to we want to do great client work. We want to do work that we're proud of that really drives our clients' businesses forward. Two, we want to be growing. It's important that we be growing for a lot of reasons, including that helps us create a place where people can grow with us, and that's important for keeping great talent and for doing great work. And third, we want to have a sustainable business that's profitable, and that's sustainable for the long term. So with those goals in mind, I think we try to think about, okay, how can we do that? How can we have a culture that demands excellence, but also supports people so that they can be their best? And I think Wilbert, and we also want to invest in our community. It's really important to our people. They want to be putting their talents to use in the community and for causes that they care about. And B, we just think it's the right thing to do. So Wilbert Wellness and Wilbert Cares kind of grew out of that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh,
I
totally.
feel like I'm kind of
And here's where that fascinating space where sometimes those values can be in conflict, right? Do you ever find tensions where the values are in conflict, and how do you reconcile those?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old you are, Cannon, but I'm very much a Gen Xer.
Mhm.
So, and I think there is sometimes, yeah, I approach things from that standpoint. Sometimes, I mean, I believe in hard work. I believe that if you wanna make it, you can come in a little early, you can stay a little late. I've always been willing to outwork everybody else. So, I've hired for that, and my leadership team has kind of in lockstep with me on that. Having said that, you have to balance that again against wanting to have that great culture where people are energized and they're not burned out, and they can bring their best selves to work. You have to balance that sort of hard driving approach with giving people some grace when they're new in their job and they're still learning, or maybe they're going through something outside of work and they just need some space for that. So I think that's something that we're always trying to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and sometimes like one interesting tension is, and I'll talk to owners about this all the time. They want to pursue growth. At the same time, they want it to be quality, right? And sometimes there's an inherent trade off there too. So, how do you build into a system, where you can decide to take on the right kind of opportunity and say no to some of the wrong opportunities, even though no might mean not growing where you wanted or as fast as you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was really hard for us, especially in the beginning, right? So, because what we don't like to do is like a one-off press release. People call us sometimes, oh, we bought a building. Can you announce that for us? Can you put out a press release and get us in the Atlanta Business Chronicle? And we'll pay you X number of dollars. So like we could do that and it would be pretty easy for us, right? But and so in the beginning that was very tempting, but it's not really what we think is the right approach to PR. We really want to be telling our clients stories in an ongoing, consistent way. We think that's better for them, and it's growing our business in the way that we want to grow it. So that does mean sometimes turning work away. And we have some great freelancers that we'll refer that work to. Um, but yeah.
So when we do think about values, a lot of it is helping owners be able to ultimately tell their stories in a way where it's authentic to them. And I know that's your business. So tell us a little bit about how you help either who are founders, but in their business sense, tell their stories and in a way uncover their voice.
Yeah, I mean, we usually start with deep dives. And so we just really try to get to know our clients and understand their businesses. We do a lot of our own research, because we want to tell their stories in a way that drives their goals, whatever those are. We don't want to just get them news coverage for the sake of it. So we're always trying to understand, what they're trying to accomplish. What are the things that they want to be talking about and why? Who are they trying to reach? What audiences do they care about? So I think that's really important. In terms of their voice, we do get better at it when we spend more time with a client. We have a lot of clients we've worked with for many years, and some of them I feel like we're in their heads at this point, and we can anticipate what they'll say and how they'll say it. So that's nice when we get to that place. I have some clients who really want to be out there, who are willing to say something that's provocative, um, and they're comfortable with that, and they're comfortable being the face of the company. And then others, we'll start talking about working together, and they'll say, I really don't want to be that guy. I really want to be more of a group thing. I want other people on my team to also be out there. I'm just not comfortable sort of bragging, or, what might feel like bragging. So I'm not sure PR is for me. But it can be. We just have to listen to them and what they're comfortable with, and what their voice is. So
Hey there, it's Claudia, producer of Business Owner Tales from the Trenches. Just a quick break to say, if today's conversation is striking a chord, don't forget to visit canon-car.com. You'll find key takeaways from this episode, deeper resources, and you can download Canon's 3Rs framework, a powerful tool for navigating the toughest moments in business. Again, that's canon-car.com. Now back to the conversation.
So we'll pivot a little bit toward what I call the end game for you, right? I mean, you've obviously, you've got a ways to go in this wonderful career, but for you, first for the business, what does success ultimately look like? And for you personally, what does success look like?
Well, for the business, as I mentioned, I really want to make sure we're doing work. We want to be proud to work at the Wilbert Group. I want to be proud to work at the Wilbert Group. So that means doing great client work, and again, creating a place where people can thrive, and whether they end up staying with us or they end up moving on and doing something else with their career, I hope that they'll look back and think that, this was a great place to work, and in many cases, a great place to start their career. We hire a lot of people right out of college. So that's important to me. And then again, running that sustainable business, very early on, it was important to me that we run the business in a way that was sustainable, so that we could make money ourselves, and later that I could make money myself, and also that we would be attractive if we potentially wanted to sell the business. And so I think just having that discipline right from the start was really important. I think it's easy for people who maybe are more creative industries to just care so much about the work itself, the PR, or I can't think of another one off the top of my head, but somebody who's not a naturally minded business person, to just want to invest back in the business, and to just really care about the work and be passionate about the work, and not really thinking about the numbers. And so, I didn't really know what I was doing, but right from the beginning, it was important to me to try to figure out what those right ratios were. How much revenue do we need to have to hire somebody new? How much time should people at each level on an account team be working, based on how much money they made, and based on how much the client was paying us on a monthly basis. So, I was always trying to figure that out, so that we would be profitable.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So sustainable business to you does it mean always profitable, or does it mean, tell us what sustainable means in your view?
I mean, for us, yes, profitable. So I wanted to be, just, again, we're talking about just about me now.
Yeah.
It makes me a little uncomfortable, but I want to be able to take out money, on a regular basis. I wanted to be building wealth while I still own the company,
Yeah.
not waiting for the exit strategy. Now I have, in the last couple of years, as I think sold part of the business to somebody who's been working with me for over a decade, and she's running a lot of it now, and she's the president. So I did but I didn't know that was where we were going to end up. I probably would have guessed that I would sell it to a larger agency, and I've been approached many times about that. But I always just wanted to make sure that if whoever came calling, that I had, and if it was something I wanted to do, that I had that sort of balance sheet, and the P&L, that would be attractive.
Yeah. Well, it's brilliant, because a lot of owners do instead, contrary to what you're saying, they'll think, oh, I'll just build this for success at some point and sell it. And that can be a mythical target, right? And being able to pull wealth along the way, so valuable, and being able to, kind of control that exit path is wonderful. So I know it's never. It's in hindsight, it looks easier, and it always is. But that's well done. The financial side was not your strength. I mean, every entrepreneur's got something they've got to work on. How how did you address maybe what needed to be filled there? Was that turning to external advice? How did you bring in that kind of expertise, the financial side?
Yeah. I do want to answer that, but before, just one other thing to add on that, and this is probably something like your clients could talk to you about, but like one like very specific thing that I did working with my financial advisor is like a profit sharing program
Yeah,
on the retirement, so that it helped my team because I was putting more into their retirement accounts, but also it allowed me to every year to put even more into my own retirement, so that again I was kind of building that wealth as I was going. But in terms of, yeah, I really didn't know what I was doing. I never even really worked at a PR firm. I mean, so I had to really figure out a lot about the business side. I did use an advisor who specialized in sort of our world, and he did help me with some of those ratios I was talking about. That was really early on. He was based in New York, and he really did a lot of he would help companies that were buying and selling. So he also got me in that mindset of like all these numbers, you need to have them no matter what, whether you just want to run a sustainable business or whether you ultimately do want to sell. It's important either way. So that was helpful. Yeah, and then I just, try to figure it out, ask for advice from people along the way. The guy, Mark Breakovich, who worked with me forever, um, and was the executive vice president. He just retired. But he had sort of a mind for like a lot of details. So he would help me a lot with sort of the operational stuff that, um, just wasn't really my strength. So I think it's good to, we were a great team. So it's good to find somebody that can be kind of the yin for your yang, I think. So.
yeah, no, it's awesome. So, just wrapping this part of the segment up. I mean, now, I think you have put a leadership team in place, right? And you've got, now a co-owner running alongside at least one. Um, how, so how do you deliberately put in place that leadership team that, particularly for you, where you've got experts, content experts, people who love content, but maybe not necessarily business savvy? When maybe did you start putting that leadership team formally in place? Because as usual, it's not like you were planning ahead. Just tell us a little bit about your thought process there.
Yeah, I mean, they've just all worked with me for a long time, and they've kind of grown into those roles. Each of them has different strengths and weaknesses. And Liana, who's now the president, I don't know. I think she was just always interested in the business part of it as well as being a really great PR practitioner. Um, it just was a really natural
Yeah.
evolution.
And these were all homegrown talent, right? Like they grew up alongside you. You didn't bring them from outside.
No, Liana was an intern. So she and I we've been together a long time. And she's really been kind of in charge for a little over a year now. And when I watch her, I think that's exactly what I would have done, except a little bit better, like a little bit smarter. So
That's
I'm
perfect.
just really proud of her, and I'm lucky, really, really
Well,
lucky.
that's so wonderful. So, and again, in hindsight, it looks easy, but I mean, like, yeah, I think underneath it is that careful planning, recognizing, what you needed to add, maybe something beyond your skill set. I mean, these are classic things that many entrepreneurs have blind spots and they don't address them soon enough, right? I think you are just honest and vulnerable and said, here's what we need to do. So it's a great example. Well, in closing, and that may be the closing advice, but I'm just curious, what advice would you, when you look back over how you built your business, what advice would you give to other founders or entrepreneurs who are 2 years into what they're doing and wondering if it's going to succeed?
Well, this is maybe more on the personal side, but
Yeah,
one note I had made was so when you're the owner, right? Like you're the last one to get paid. So I would say like one thing that I did that was really helpful is I just never really lived beyond my means. And in the good years, I just didn't up my lifestyle to to match that, I guess. So as a result, like, when there's inevitable ups and downs, it's just not as scary. And you're still building wealth, if you're really careful about that. And it also just allows you to make better business decisions because you're not making them from a place of panic. You're able to really think long term about the business if you're not um, so worried about being able to take out a certain amount of money every year.
Yeah, no,
I don't know if that's
wonderful advice. And it's so hard sometimes to ignore the noise and follow other people's agendas, right? And try to keep up, right? Particularly in places like big cities where, you can overspend. So, that kind of discipline is one of the keys to success. So that's great.
I mean, for me, like a personal goal is I just really wanted to be able to send my kids to college wherever they wanted to go, debt free. I wanted to be able to do that for them, and so yeah, that was just something I always kept in mind and tried to save for that. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be proud of at what you've built at the Wilbert Group and the team that is now taking over. And so, how do you like to spend your time now as we close here? I like, if it's not, it's less and less day to day management. How are you liking to spend your time?
Well, I'm still pretty involved with the Wilbert Group. Definitely helping with certain clients and a lot with new business, which is I really enjoy. I love thinking about how we can help people, and if somebody comes to us and they want help telling their story, I love to think about how we can do that and help sell that. And so I'm still busy with that. I do have more time to be with my family and my kids than I did. I was running crazy when they were little, so it's fun that I never have to miss a cross country meet or anything like that anymore. And I'm trying to spend more time writing and kind of getting back to some of the things that I enjoyed earlier in my career. So we'll see. I'm 54, so I think I've still got something left in me. I don't know what it is, but I think I've got one more chapter.
Yeah, no, we got a long, good chapter ahead. So, well, Caroline, these have been awesome, timeless lessons. So, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your story. It's been awesome.
It was really fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.